We're in Iceland, and we're on the Golden Circle with Lunch shore excursion from Royal Caribbean. Welcome back to the bus after the Strokkur Geyser has erupted in September of 2022. Hey everyone, I'm Patrick from Oakland Travel, and it's time to go on to our next part of the shore excursion. The Voyager of the Seas was docked over in Reykjavík in Iceland in September 2022. It was a 14-night repositioning cruise taking the ship from Copenhagen, Denmark over to Boston, Massachusetts. And kind of a very interesting cruise, something we had never done before. We flew over to Copenhagen, joined the ship over there, and then of course once we got to Boston, we just took a little domestic flight from Boston down to Orlando, Florida, where we live. So 14 nights on the Voyager of the Seas, saw a lot of interesting stuff, a couple different places in Iceland. The ship docked over at Akureyri on the northern coast of Iceland, and then Reykjavík, which is kind of the southwestern corner of Iceland. And then after this, the ship would go over to Greenland and get a chance to see Qaqortoq. We were supposed to go to Nuuk, but that didn't quite happen. I mentioned earlier, this was September of 2022. And so if you think about the time frame, that was right in the middle of the pandemic. And it was kind of like a few months after the cruise restart had really kicked into gear. So by the time we got to this, a lot of the mask requirements had been dropped and things like that, but there were still some leftovers from all of the COVID protocols that everybody was dealing with once the cruise ships restarted. So it was getting better by the time we were on the Voyager in September 2022, but it wasn't as good as it would end up getting, which was basically close to or back to regular normal cruising. So it was very nice to eventually get to that. But because of the time period and all the COVID protocols and everything, and up in Greenland at Nuuk, they decided to cancel our shore stop there. So we got to go to Qaqortoq, and then we got to cruise through the Prince Christian Sund area of Greenland before eventually heading over to Boston, Massachusetts. But spent a day and a half in Reykjavík, almost 2 full days in Reykjavík, and did the Blue Lagoon shore excursion for the first evening. And then, of course, here we are doing the Golden Circle with Lunch shore excursion. And right here we get back on the bus and head off to the next part of the shore excursion.
Here, because the fence, the sheep are kept outside the fence. This is the reason why it grows so well here, because the sheep are not eating up the leaves of the small trees. And here, on the right side, you saw a crack. This is not as clear as on the other side. Therefore, we are going down the People's Ravine. Here, it is not so clear on the Eurasian side, because there are 3 main cracks, which mark the beginning or the end of the Eurasian continental plate. In front of us we see the dark line, which is the beginning or the end of the North American continental plate.